Imagine your own brother going on national radio and telling the world you should be in trouble with the law. Not a stranger, not a rival, your brother. That is almost exactly what just happened to Kyle Busch this week, and the story behind it might be one of the strangest NASCAR controversies of the whole year. Because the person calling him out is Kurt Busch, his own flesh and blood, the 2004 Cup Series champion, a newly inducted NASCAR Hall of Famer. And on Monday, Kurt sat down on the Door Bumper Clear podcast and did something almost nobody saw coming. He took NASCAR's side over his own little brother. To understand why this is such a big deal, you have to go back 2 weeks to Texas Motor Speedway, because that is where this whole mess started. 2 wrecks happened that day, just laps apart from each other. One driver got punished hard, the other one walked away without a scratch on his record, and fans have been arguing about it ever since. The first wreck involved Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek. It happened on a restart with both drivers fighting for 12th place. Kyle got into Nemechek and sent the Legacy Motor Club car spinning across the track. A lot of fans watched the replay and thought it looked like Kyle did it on purpose. Some even called for a suspension. The second wreck was Ryan Preece and Ty Gibbs. Preece made contact with Gibbs, who spun off the front of his car. Preece said afterward that he just refused to give Gibbs a break because of how they had been racing each other lately. So 2 wrecks, 2 drivers spinning, same race, same kind of moment. But here is where it gets strange. NASCAR hit Ryan Preece with a $50,000 fine and took away 25 points. Kyle Busch got nothing more than a warning. No fine, no points lost. He walked away clean. Why? Because of his radio. Or really, because of what he didn't say on his radio. NASCAR officials explained that before Preece wrecked Gibbs, Preece told his team over the radio that when he got back to Gibbs, he was done with him. To NASCAR, that proved he meant to do it. Kyle Busch never said anything like that before getting into Nemechek, so NASCAR said they couldn't prove he meant to wreck him. That decision did not sit well with a lot of people, and one of those people, surprisingly, was Kyle's own brother. When the hosts of the Door Bumper Clear podcast asked Kurt Busch about it on Monday, he did not hold back. He said, "Well, that's the problem of the problem. NASCAR shouldn't go off of what someone says on the radio. They should be able to still look at the eyeball test." The eyeball test is simple. It just means watching the replay and using common sense. Did the move look on purpose or didn't it? Kurt is saying NASCAR should trust their own eyes, not just listen to team radios. But then Kurt took it way further. He didn't just question the rule. He came right out and said his little brother should have been punished too. "What my brother did to John Hunter was the same exact thing," Kurt said. He talked about how silly it gets when NASCAR has to dig through every word a driver said. And there could have been maybe 1 or 2 words. Now you're in like a courtroom. You may have, or you could have, you change one little word in a sentence. Then came the part that really turned heads. Kurt said, "But to have Preece penalized and not my brother, I mean, I have no problem saying it. They both should have been in the same doghouse, personally." Both should have been in the same doghouse. That is a Hall of Fame older brother saying his 2-time champion younger brother got off easy. You don't hear that every day. To be fair to Kurt, he wasn't trying to attack his brother. His real problem was with NASCAR. He kept saying the issue is that the rules feel uneven. Same kind of wreck. Totally different result. All because of what a driver did or didn't say on a radio. And then Kurt told a story from his own racing days that explained exactly why this whole thing bothers him so much. It's a story that hits a little too close to home for him. It happened during an all-star race. Kurt thinks it was the year Dale Earnhardt Jr. won, or maybe Ryan Newman won. He was pretty sure it was 2002. Late in the race, Kurt needed a yellow flag so his team could get fresh tires and have one more shot at the win. So he wrecked Robbie Gordon on purpose to make it happen. Here is the important part. Kurt didn't say a word about it on his radio. He kept his mouth shut. The yellow came out, his team got those new tires, but he still wasn't fast enough to catch the leaders. So it should have ended there. Except it didn't. Anyway, I was on a radio show Tuesday afterwards, Kurt said. I can't remember what show it was. It could have been like 106.5 downtown. I was just off guard, or it was early morning, I said. Oh yeah, I wrecked him. I was just looking for a yellow because I needed one more shot. I wanted one more shot. He admitted it, on a radio show, 2 days after the race. The punishment came fast. As Kurt remembers it, on Wednesday, NASCAR issued me a $100,000 penalty, docked points. Even though it was the all-star race. Now, time may have made that story a little bigger in his memory. The records actually show NASCAR fined him $10,000 and put him on probation, and since the all-star race doesn't award championship points, there were no points to take away. Still, the lesson is the same. He got punished, and it stung. And on top of all that, Kurt said Richard Childress, who owned Robbie Gordon's car, wanted to fight him by Friday. A real fine and a team owner ready to throw hands, all because Kurt opened his mouth on a morning radio show. The wreck itself? Nobody could prove a thing. It was the talking that got him. So Kurt knows from personal experience exactly how this works. If you keep quiet, NASCAR usually can't touch you. If you say something, you're done. And that's pretty much the lesson here. Kyle Busch wrecked John Hunter Nemechek, didn't say a single thing about it on his radio, and walked away with a warning. Same kind of move that got Preece fined and docked points. The only difference was the talking part. Kurt's frustration also fits into a bigger problem NASCAR is having right now. Fans have been saying for a while that the penalty calls feel uneven. After Preece got hit, lots of people pulled up the replay of Kyle and Nemechek and said the two wrecks looked basically the same. Even Mike Ford, who works for NASCAR as the managing director for racing communications, has admitted there's a pattern problem. On the Hauler Talk podcast, he said, "Let's not have to be having this conversation as often as we are, because the benefit of the doubt is running out pretty quickly." That is NASCAR itself basically warning Kyle Busch. And this isn't even the first time Kyle has come close to getting punished this year. Back at Bristol, Riley Herbst spun him around, and later in the race, Kyle seemed to get him back. Fans thought it was payback. NASCAR didn't agree. Once again, no penalty. It's a pattern. Kyle gets into someone, fans cry foul, NASCAR looks at it, and Kyle walks away. And every time it happens, it gets harder for NASCAR to explain why one driver gets a fine and another driver doesn't. The wild part is that through all of this, Kyle Busch is actually starting to run better. At Watkins Glen on Sunday, he picked up a top 10 finish, his second top 10 inches the last 3 weeks. So while his brother is on a podcast saying he deserved a penalty, Kyle is quietly putting together some of his best runs of the year. So what does it all add up to? When your own Hall of Fame brother goes on a podcast and says you belong in the doghouse, that's a story you don't hear too often in NASCAR. And it leaves one big question hanging in the air for fans. If both wrecks looked the same, and NASCAR only punished one driver because of what someone said over the radio, is that really fair officiating? Or is NASCAR just punishing the drivers who didn't know to stay quiet?